This is the analysis video that you need to watch for this weekend's UFC event. I combine data analysis in 7 of my data science prediction models that I continuously tweak and improve while also adding human input into my fight predictions and my picks. So I go and rewatch fights for all these guys, I make key observations, and I share all of my analysis with you guys, both the quantitative and the qualitative stuff. Now I do have a Patreon where a week before each event I release all of my statistical analysis, my picks, my predictions, my bets, model results, on top of doing a deeper dive into each of these fighters' records, even an analysis on their individual performances in each of their fights throughout their UFC career. So if you take picks and predictions seriously, that data will definitely be useful. Check it out, it's in the Patreon. You'll get that analysis for each and every single event a week before the event, and it's $20 a month, which puts you at about $5 per card. But trust me guys, that data is going to make your life much easier. I average 70 to 72%, and this includes on prelims, fight nights, and definitely on pay-per-views. That is my strongest area right there. But all across the board, I average 70 to 72%, and it's only getting better. So that data is going to help you make solid, logical choices. Anyways, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started. UFC 317 is this weekend. It is happening in T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It's one of those events that has huge implications for 2 different divisions. In the main event, we have Topuria, a undefeated former featherweight champion who has moved up and vacated his title to face Charles Oliveira for the current vacant lightweight title because the former champion Islam Makhachev is also moving up in weight, so he vacated his title. And then in the co-main event, we have flyweight champion Alexander Pantoja, who's defending his belt against Kai Kara-France. It is going to be a banger of an event. We also have great fights underneath as well, so I cannot wait to cover everything. Let's go ahead and get started. For the first fight I'm covering, it is Jacobe Smith versus Niko Price. For this fight, I ended up going with Jacobe Smith here. I ended up giving him a 74% probability of victory. Pretty strong prediction overall. Now the prediction models that I have 7 of them, data science based, really intelligent, continuously improving them. They all combine to give him a 65% probability of victory, so I am more confident in him than my models, and that's because I do research outside of data as well. I rewatch fights, I do the human input, do the research, and then I form my opinion. Those of you who have been watching know, and if you're new, I'm sure that you can make use of my data and my research. So first, let's talk the stats, what's on paper. Jacobe Smith, he's 6 years younger than his opponent here. He lands 2.13 more strikes per minute. He has a 28% better striking accuracy. He absorbs 3.6 less strikes per minute with a 4% better striking defense, landing 10 more takedowns on average, and he has a 58% better takedown accuracy. A lot of advantages on his side. His total record, 10 wins and not a single loss, ladies and gentlemen. Out of those 10 wins, 8 of them were KO/TKOs and 2 were decision victories. Yes, that gives him an 80% finishing rate, and of course no losses. Now he does have 7 first round finishes out of his 10 wins, so most of the time this guy is getting it done within the very first round, but he can also get finishes later on in the fight as well. He's on that 10 fight crazy win streak, most recent win in January of 2025. Let's talk about what this kid does good outside of the stats. Here's where the research kicks in. Now it's no surprise this kid is 29 years old. He is young, he's athletic, he's in his prime, you could argue, or headed towards his prime. He's, he has this strong reputation for explosive movement, good power. He's athletic, so he's able to initiate and get the finish very quickly, and oftentimes when he's facing guys, he overwhelms them a lot before they can even react. And then you got Niko Price, who's 35 years old, and if you know anything about MMA, you know that the reaction time starts dwindling down around that time. Very, very dangerous. Now, when it comes to Smith's game, he is relentless with his offensive pressure. He's known for that aggression. He's known for that very high-paced style, very entertaining to watch. And that constant forward motion, it's very likely going to disrupt Price's rhythm and really prevent him from settling into his preferred unorthodox striking pattern. Now, also keep in mind, Smith does have really good wrestling and ground control as well. He has good credentials. He's a 2-time NJCAA national champion, and he's also a high school state champ, so keep that in mind. He's really good at being able to dictate where a fight takes place, and that is a huge advantage, especially against someone like Price, who is durable, I'll give him that, but he has struggled against some of those dominant wrestlers in his past. And so if Smith gets Price to the mat, he can control and really punish him from that top position. That's really going to limit Price's opportunities for striking and submission. This kid, Smith, he has a killer instinct, great finishing ability, good fight IQ, he's an adaptable fighter, whole lot of potential in this kid, good momentum, great confidence. All in all, I would not be surprised if Smith goes out there and gets a KO/TKO. I think that's very likely to happen in this fight. That is the final verdict, stylistically, statistically, and everything in between. Jacobe Smith via KO/TKO. For the next fight, we have Sedriques Dumas versus Jackson McVey. For this fight, I am going with Jackson McVey. Now, unfortunately, I could not run both of these guys through my prediction models because of the debut. However, the odds are giving Sedriques a 54% probability of victory. Now, the statistical reason why I'm picking Jackson instead is because Jackson has a height advantage of 2 inches here. He's 3 years younger. He has a total record of 6 wins, not a single loss. Let's break those wins down real quick. Out of those 6 wins, 3 of them were KO/TKOs, 3 were submissions, and no decision victories, which gives him a surprising and amazing 100% finishing rate. That is what I love to see. He also has 6 first-round finishes, so all of his wins are coming in that very first round. And his most recent win was just back in June of 2025. So he is doing a very quick turnaround and coming into the UFC. He's previously fought in LFA and he's had a couple of fights in Shamrock FC as well. Let's talk about the stylistic things that this kid does very good. So keep in mind, he is coming in with a lot of momentum. He's coming in very hot. He's good in terms of confidence, psychological edge, all that stuff. Now, the things he does good in his game, he has really good grappling, and he has a good submission game as well. He has a great foundation in jiu-jitsu, dangerous submission arsenal in his back pocket. He's really good at capitalizing on any kind of ground exchanges, and then he'll do a quick guillotine choke or some other kind of submission, and that quickly could end fights if Sedriques gets taken down or even makes one mistake. This kid is going to be looking to get in there and finish the fight very quickly, make a statement. He's 26 years young. He's gotten 2 guillotine chokes, a Bravo choke in his record. That's pretty impressive. He has good clinch and ground and pound as well. I like his versatility in striking. He has good movement. He's focused. He's prepared. He's really known for his high output and dealing with a lot of pressure. And I think that his style, whenever it comes to that kind of pressure, I think it's going to wear down Dumas over time, especially over the fight. I don't even think it's going to last very long. If I'm being honest, my prediction for this fight is going to be McVey via KO/TKO. That would not surprise me at all. I know the odds are ever so slightly favoring Sedriques. However, I am leaning towards the other side here. I'm going to give Jackson McVey the benefit of the doubt. I like what I see out of him, and we're going to go with him via KO/TKO. That's the bottom line for this fight. For the next fight, we have Terrance McKinney versus Viacheslav Borshchev. Now, for this fight, I am picking Terrance McKinney, and it's not because his name is much easier to pronounce. I'm giving Terrance McKinney a 66% probability of victory. Prediction models give him a 64% probability of victory, so there's some confluence there overall, but I'm a little bit more confident after doing the research outside of the stats as well. Now, the statistical reason why I'm picking Terrance McKinney, keep in mind, 3 years younger, has a reach advantage of 4 inches, lands 0.66 more strikes per minute with a 2% better striking accuracy while absorbing 2.18 less strikes per minute with a 34% better takedown defense and while landing 1.3 more submissions on average. Pretty impressive. You have a lot of green on the left side of your screen, and that's exactly what I like to see. This guy's a standout whenever it comes to stats on paper. Let's take a look at his record. 16 wins, 7 losses. Now let's break down those wins real quick. Out of those 16 wins, 8 of them were KO/TKO victories, 8 of them were submission victories, no decision victories. And yes, that means he has a 100% finish rate. Very impressive. Out of his 7 losses, 5 of those losses were via KO/TKO, and the remaining 2 were via submission losses. So he's never really gone to the judges, win or lose. He does have 15 first-round finishes, ladies and gentlemen. You heard that right. That is a key stat. Out of his 16 wins, Terrance McKinney has 15 first-round finishes. Recently, he's done well overall in terms of momentum. He has won 3 of his last 5 fights, and he is coming off of a win into this fight. His most recent win actually was early this year, back in February, and his most recent loss was back in May of 2024. Now let's talk about the non-statistical factors as to why Terrance McKinney is more likely to win this fight logically and why I like him as the winner. So first thing I would want to point out is his explosiveness and his power. I mean, he's known for his explosive striking and his knockout power. If you don't believe me, take a look at his previous fights. His fights are usually characterized by really fast starts, aggressive pressure, constant pressure, and the ability to end fights really quickly with just one punch or a great combination. Again, a lot of his victories, like over 90%, are coming within the very first round. And then, that explosiveness, I think that it's going to overwhelm Borshchev, who I will agree is also dangerous himself, but I think he's going to struggle to match McKinney's intense early start in this fight. He's also a good wrestler. He has good top control as well. He has a dominant top game overall. So if the fight does go to the ground, I do expect that McKinney will have a really good advantage there. He's going to be able to control the pace and the position of the fight, potentially leading to some nasty ground and pound exchanges or even some submission opportunities. Now, Borshchev, he's shown some vulnerability to grappling in the past, as I've noticed, and so McKinney, I do expect him to exploit anything like that. Now, Terrance McKinney also has a lot of momentum and confidence coming in this fight. He's an adaptable fighter, very versatile. I mean, he transitions very well when it comes to striking and grappling, and that just gives him multiple avenues to victory. And if you've been listening to the channel for a while, you know I really like picking fighters that have multiple paths to victory. I think that that is this X factor that people really need to consider whenever it comes to fighters. I also like Terrance McKinney's fight IQ and his game planning overall, and his execution when it comes to his game plan. So all in all, statistics, stylistic factors, qualitative, non-qualitative, quantitative, all that good stuff, I am picking Terrance McKinney to win. I would not be surprised if he gets it done via KO/TKO. That is what I'm going for. That's the bottom line for this fight. Give me McKinney via KO/TKO. For the next fight, we have Hyder Amil versus Jose Delgado. For this fight, I am picking Jose Delgado. I'm giving him a 62% probability of victory. Prediction models give him a 61% probability of victory. Very close. A lot of confluence there, which I like. I ended up giving him a little bit of a boost, just 1%. Now, the statistical things I like about Jose: he has a height advantage of 2 inches here. He's 7 years younger than his opponent. Keep that in mind. He has a reach advantage of 3 inches. He absorbs 0.5 less strikes per minute, has a 4% better striking defense, lands 4 more takedowns on average, and has a 53% higher takedown accuracy. Now, Jose's total record is 9 wins and only 1 single loss. Out of his 9 wins, 5 of those were KO/TKOs, 4 were submissions, and again, no decisions here. So that gives him a 100% finish rate as well. Talk about great fights back to back. Now, his one loss was a decision loss, but it's only one loss, and it went to the judges. Jose, he does have 6 first-round finishes out of his 9 wins, so 2/3 of the time, this guy is getting it done within the very first round. Recently, he's been on a tear. He's won 5 of his last 5 fights. He's on that 6-fight win streak. He's doing great. The most recent win was back in February of this year, and his most recent loss was back in February of 2023. Now let's talk about the non-statistical things that really work in Jose's favor. First thing I want to point out is his versatility and just his finishing tools in general. He's a very well-rounded fighter. He has good finishing ability, as we've seen in his record, but also in his execution. Go and watch his previous fights and you'll see what I'm talking about. He's really good in striking and in grappling. He mixes up his attacks with a variety of kicks, feints, and stance switches, and that makes him very unpredictable in the octagon, and he's just very dangerous in almost any phase of a fight, and I love to see that. He's able to threaten with submissions, get his ground and pound game going, and that really just adds another layer to his game, and I think that's going to trouble Amil a lot, who is kind of more of a boxer if you think about it. He has less variety overall in his arsenal. Still a decent fighter, but you get what I'm saying. Now, Jose, I also like his reach and his physical advantages. I know that's not so much stylistic, but the way he uses it in fights, you could definitely consider that as a qualitative factor. I mean, he's able to control the distance way more effectively. He lands really good strikes from the outside, and I think that that's going to frustrate Amil's pressure style game. That extra few inches in height and reach, I think that's going to be very crucial in preventing Amil from closing the distance and implementing his preferred aggressive boxing approach that we've seen before. Also, Jose is very sharp when it comes to his technical game. I like his lateral movement, his head movement, his ability to fight off his back feet. I mean, those are highlighted as his strengths, and he does them very, very good. He has great feints, sharp kicks, and he's able to stay very mobile in the octagon. That's going to disrupt Amil's rhythm and really prevent him from establishing any kind of pressure in his game. I love Jose's movement. I like his cardio, his pace as a fighter, good confidence, good momentum. And for all of that and several other reasons, I would take Jose Delgado via KO/TKO. That is the bottom line for this fight. I think that's very logically and likely to happen. For the next fight, we have Jhonata Diniz versus Alvin Hines. For this fight, I am picking Jhonata Diniz. Now, unfortunately, I could not run both of these people through the prediction models because of the debut here. However, the odds are giving Jhonata Diniz about a 68% probability of victory. Now, the statistical reason why I agree with that: now, Diniz does have a height advantage of 2 inches here, and he has a reach advantage of 5 inches. When you look at his record, the guy has 8 wins, only 1 single loss. Out of his 8 wins, 7 of those were KO/TKOs. Only 1 was a decision victory. The guy has an 88% finish rate. Love to see it. His only loss was a KO/TKO loss. He does have 6 first-round finishes out of his 8 wins. That is very important. A lot of times in the first round, Diniz is getting it done. Recently, he's been on an absolute tear, winning 4 of his last 5 fights. but he is coming off of a loss from his previous fight into this one. His most recent one was back in August of 2024, and his most recent loss was November, a few months later in 2024. Let's talk about what Diniz does very well as a fighter and why I think he's likely going to win this one. The first thing I want to highlight for you guys is that Diniz is known for his hard-hitting technical kickboxing background. The guy has great kickboxing pedigree, good striking power as well. He's very dangerous, even at the heavyweight level. He has really good knockout power, and he can end fights very suddenly, as we've seen. Now, this is very important in a matchup where his opponent kind of lacks some experience against some high-level UFC style strikers. And I think his experience in general is with higher level competition, and I think that that is going to kind of give him an edge over a debuting fighter like Hines. Now, I also like the confidence and momentum that Diniz is carrying. Even though he's coming off of a loss, the guy is very confident. I mean, 8 wins, only 1 single loss. I think that he's gonna, he's gonna come in and deliver what he can under the bright lights, and that's gonna be a huge factor against a very high pressure matchup for Hines, who's stepping in, and that's gonna be a little bit tough. I also like the physical advantages in general that Diniz has. He does stand taller, and he's expected to really make good use of his reach and his size to control the distance. He's done it well before too, and I think that's gonna make it very hard for Hines to close the gap and implement his grappling heavy game plan. And that kind of physical edge, it could be the difference in a heavyweight fight where, every single inch or pound might matter. And again, just highlighting the inexperience that Alvin Hines has coming into this fight. All in all, I would not be surprised if Diniz gets a KO/TKO victory. That's exactly what I'm going for. Give me Diniz via KO/TKO. I think that's what's going to happen, and that's the bottom line for this fight. For the next fight, we have a highly anticipated fight against Viviane Araujo versus Tracy Cortez. For this fight, I am going with Tracy Cortez. No bias here, guys. I'm giving her a 70% probability victory here, and prediction models, they kind of agreed. They gave her a 68% probability victory. I bumped it up just a little bit there because I really like what I see out of Tracy Cortez. She has a great fight game. I like her experience, and even statistically, you see a lot of green on the right side of your screen, and that's exactly what I like to see. First, let's talk about what's going on paper. Let's look at the stats. Tracy has a height advantage of 1 inch here. She is 7 years younger than Viviane here. Keep that in mind. 7 years younger. Absorbs 1.85 less strikes per minute. Has a 1% better striking defense. Not very impressive, but still. Lands 0.23 more takedowns on average and has a 2% better takedown accuracy. All in all, Tracy Cortez has 11 wins and only 2 losses. Out of her 11 wins, 1 of them was a KO/TKO, 1 of them was a submission, and 9 were decision victories. So a lot of her wins really reflect her ability to control the fight, take it to the judges, and get the decisive victory here. She has a very low percent finish rate, but that means she has a high percentage in terms of control. Now, out of her 2 losses, she has 1 submission loss and 1 decision loss. She does have 1 single first round finish, so most of the time, guys, it's going to be a round 2 or round 3 victory with her. Keep that in mind whenever you're trying to do your props. Now, recently, she's been on a tear. She's won 4 of her last 5 fights. However, I will say she is coming off of a loss into this fight, so full disclosure there. Most recent win was back in September of 2023, and her most recent loss was back in July of 2024. Let's talk about what Cortez does really good. First thing I want to mention, up front and center, her pressure and her pace. She's known for her relentless forward pressure and her ability to set a very high pace. She's consistently coming forward in her fights. If you take a look at all of her fights, that is a constant. She's always coming forward. She mixes in boxing with those takedown attempts, and I do fully expect that to disrupt Araujo's rhythm and really force her to react rather than dictate the fight herself. I also like Tracy's wrestling and her control overall. I mean, her wrestling really is a standout skill that she has. She's disciplined whenever it comes to her entries. She mixes in her takedowns very well. She has a strong control game whenever it comes to the ground, and I think that she could really get Araujo to the mat, and if she does, she's going to use her top control and really neutralize Araujo's striking, any kind of submission threat she has, and kind of just grind her out and grind out those rounds in her favor and get another decision victory. Did I spoil it for you guys? Oops. Let's keep going. In terms of mental toughness and durability, Cortez, she's really shown that she could take some damage and she could keep pressing forward. And I really like that kind of grit when it comes to fighters. Whether it's women's MMA or men's MMA, you need grit and you need to be aggressive even when uncomfortable, and that's really going to throw your opponent off because you're pretty much a zombie coming towards them no matter what. And that kind of willingness to engage in close quarters, absorb punishment without backing down, that is going to wear on Araujo, especially if the fight goes into the later rounds, which I do expect it to go. I like Tracy's cardio and her consistency as well, and I know that she's coming back from her surgery, but she's really refined her skills. I mean, I think that being nearly a year away from competition, it's given her a lot of time to heal, train, and really address some of her weaknesses that were exposed a little bit in her previous fight. And I think that she's going to come back more prepared and focused in this pivotal matchup for herself, and I think she's really positioned to win this one. I like her technical skills. She's a disciplined fighter. She sticks to her game plan, avoids any unnecessary risks. You know, she's kind of the fighter that you really want to be training, because she'll do as she should to win the fight. Really good at execution. All in all, I would not be surprised if Tracy Cortez really grinds out a decision victory, unanimous decision victory. Give me Cortez via decision. That is the bottom line prediction for this fight. For the next fight, we have Jack Hermansson versus Gregory Rodrigues. For this fight, I am picking Gregory Rodrigues here. The guy is a beast. I'm giving him a 66% probability of victory here. Prediction models, they give him 64% probability of victory. I had to bump it up a little bit because I really like what I see out of Gregory. Now, the statistical things that I like from Gregory, he has a height advantage of 2 inches here. He's 4 years younger than his opponent. He lands 0.51 more strikes per minute, has a 9% better striking accuracy, lands 0.8 more takedowns on average, with an 8% better takedown accuracy and an 8% better takedown defense. His total record is 16 wins and 6 losses. Let's break those down real quick. Out of his 16 wins, 10 of them were KO/TKOs, 3 were submissions, and 3 were decision victories. Pretty well rounded overall, but he does have an 81% finish rate, which is amazing. Out of his 6 losses, 4 of them were KO/TKOs, and 2 were decision losses. He does have 7 first-round finishes out of his 16 wins, so about half the time, guys, he is able to get it done within that very first round. Recently, he's been doing pretty well. He's won 3 of his last 5 fights, pretty good momentum overall, but he is coming off of a loss into this fight. His most recent win was back in July of 2024. His most recent loss was back in February of 2025. Let's talk about what Gregory does really well and why I think he's going to win, aside from the stats alone. So first thing that I really like about Gregory Rodrigues is his superior striking power and his output overall. I mean, he's really regarded as one of the hardest hitters, and I think he is the more aggressive striker between the two of these guys. I mean, he throws a lot of volume. He throws higher volume than Jack here, and he also is able to incorporate a lot more kicks in his game, and that makes him a constant threat on the feet. I mean, that kind of pressure and output, it can definitely overwhelm opponents, and I do expect it to overwhelm Hermansson a bit, especially in a 3-round fight where Rodrigues can really bank in the early rounds with his activity and his output. I like his physicality and his strength as well. I mean, the guy really looks like a freak and a beast. I know the picture, it just doesn't do him justice, guys. Watch his previous fights. This guy's built like the Hulk or something. It's crazy, and he uses that physicality really well. He imposes his will whenever it comes to things like the clinch or when his opponents are up against the cage, and that kind of stuff is going to limit Hermansson's ability to initiate the grappling exchanges or even control the pace of the fight overall. Now, I also want to touch base on his takedown defense and his grappling resilience. I mean, both of these guys, they're good grapplers, I'll say that, but Rodrigues, he's really demonstrated some really good takedown defense, and I really like his ability to scramble back to his feet. Whenever I was rewatching his footage, that's one thing I really liked, and it stood out to me. That kind of stuff is going to make it very difficult for Hermansson to really implement his usual game plan of mixing in some strikings with some opportunistic takedowns and some top control. I think it's just going to be very difficult for him to do that against a guy like Gregory here. I like his cardio and grit as well. I mean, I know people have been concerned about his cardio in the past, and that's rightfully so, but he has shown resilience and his ability to maintain a really high work rate for, a 3-round fight. He has this gritty style that I like to see, really mentally tough, and that just makes him a really tough guy to go up against, especially against opponents who really rely on wearing down their opponents over time. That strategy might not work for a guy like Gregory. That guy's a tank. I like his recent form, good momentum as well. He's coming off of that fight of the night performance against a top contender, and even though he was defeated, it speaks to his ability to perform at a very high level, guys. So all in all, I probably rambled a bit too long, sorry guys, but I'm taking Gregory Rodrigues via KO/TKO. That is a lot of KO/TKO so far on this card, and that's why I think this card is an absolute banger. I'm very excited for this International Fight Week. For the next fight, guys, we have Payton versus Felipe Lima. This is a really good fight, guys. For this fight, I am picking Felipe Lima here. I'm giving him a 66% probability of victory. I am a fan of Payton. I think he's a great fighter. I'm excited for this fight, and it would be interesting to see them fight each other, but I think that Felipe is going to get it done. First, let's talk about let's talk about the probability. Prediction models gave him a 65% probability of victory. I gave him a 66%, bumped it up just 1%. I like what I see out of him. Let's talk statistics first. Now, Felipe Lima, he absorbs 1.43 less strikes per minute than Talbot does. He also has a 28% higher striking defense. He lands 1.4 more takedowns on average. He has a 9% better takedown accuracy, an 8% better takedown defense, and he lands 0.8 more submissions on average. Now, Felipe, his total record, 14 wins and only one single loss. Out of his 14 wins, very balanced. 4 of them were KO/TKOs, 3 of them were submissions, and 7 were decision victories. That gives him a perfect 50% finish rate. He's able to get it done. Very well-rounded guy. He's only had 1 loss, and that was a submission loss. Now, Felipe, he does have 5 first-round finishes out of his 14 wins, so about a third of the time he can get that finish within the first round. Recently, he's been on an absolute tear, guys. He's won 5 of his last 5 fights, and he is coming off of a 14-fight win streak. Absolute insanity. His most recent win was back in December of 2024. His most recent loss was all the way back in August of 2015. At that point, you might not even want to consider that a loss. Let's talk about what this kid does really, really well. Now, Lima, he enters this fight, honestly, with a championship mindset. I mean, he's never really declined a UFC fight. He's dealt with, regardless of injuries or opponent changes, whatever, he's mentally tough. He has a 14-fight win streak since his 2015 debut loss, and I think that he is a resilient fighter. I mean, that defines resilience. Now, Payton, on the other hand, he's kind of recovering from his first career defeat. It was a dominant loss, and he was kind of ragdolled respectfully by Raoni Barcelos. Lima, he's able to thrive under pressure. And one of the things that I really want to highlight for you guys is that his skill set, I think it directly exploits Payton's well-known weaknesses. Now, for example, when it comes to grappling efficiency, Lima, he averages around 2 takedowns every 50 minutes or so, and he holds a submission victory in his UFC debut as well. That kind of stuff, it really mirrors Barcelos' grappling heavy approach, which, keep in mind, if you rewatch that fight, it overwhelmed Payton. I mean, it was 8 or 7 takedowns in their fight. It was crazy. That, and then also his pressure and adaptability. Lima, he kind of grinds out his wins, and he's relentless with his pressure, and he really drains his opponent's stamina. Now, when you take a look at a guy like Payton, his style is very heavy on the striking side. And he kind of struggled when he was denied some space against a guy like Barcelos. And Lima, when you take a look at his tactical diversity, when he combines strikes and those takedowns and those submission threats, I think that could really replicate this kind of suffocation, and that is very dangerous. Now, also, keep in mind, Lima, he was originally training for a ranked opponent. I think it was Jonathan Martinez, if I'm not mistaken, before Martinez got injured, and he was forced to change this matchup, basically. And so that kind of stuff, what that means is that Lima had a higher level camp focus. I mean, he was prepared. Yeah, he was targeting a very high-ranked bantamweight, and that kind of training intensity is probably going to exceed Payton's, respectfully. He's also, again, a very resilient fighter. I like his insight as well. He's really known for actively studying bantamweights and even champions like Merab and using their success to continuously refine his own goals. I like that kind of stuff. I think that when you work on yourself as a fighter or even as a person, that is key to driving improvements. And so with all of that stuff, his mental toughness, stylistic alignments to Payton's flaws, it's a really good game plan. Both of these guys, I think Felipe is going to come out with the win. I think there's a lot of stylistic factors that go into picking Felipe over Payton, but you never know. Payton might come out and have worked on his weaknesses. I don't necessarily believe that's the case. I don't think it's going to be a finish, though. Give me Felipe via decision. That's what I think is going to happen in this fight. That's my bottom line. For the next fight, we have Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, the analyst. For this fight, I am picking Renato Moicano here, Money Moicano. I'm giving him a 53% probability of victory. It is a bit narrow, but I do expect him to get the victory here. Prediction models, they actually thought of him as the underdog here. They give him a 49% probability of victory, but I am still going with Renato here. And the stylistic reasons is why. First, let's talk about statistical advantages that Renato has. He has a height advantage of an inch here. He lands 0.6 more strikes per minute. He has a 3% better striking defense and a 10% better takedown accuracy as well. His total record, Renato's 20 wins, 6 losses. Out of his 20 wins, 2 of them were KO/TKOs. 10 of them were submissions. Definitely a key point to his game. and 8 were decision victories, which all in all gives him a 60% finish rate. Pretty versatile overall. Great submission game. Out of his 6 losses, 3 of them were KO/TKOs, 2 were submissions, and 1 was a decision loss. He does have 4 first-round finishes out of his 20 wins, so a fifth of the time he is able to get it done within that very first round. Now, recently he's been on an absolute tear, guys. He's won 4 of his last 5 fights, but he is coming off of a loss into this fight, full disclosure. Now, his most recent win was back in September of 2024, and his most recent loss was in January of this year. Let's talk about the stylistic things that Jhonata does very well. I like the momentum he's carrying, and I also like his confidence as a fighter and as an analyst as well. He does know how to break down very key technical things, and that does kind of refine his execution and his game plan overall. He's a versatile fighter. He's evolved into a more multifaceted type of fighter. I mean, while he's known for his elite BJJ, he's also significantly improved his striking and ground and pound game, and that really makes him unpredictable and very capable of adjusting his strategy mid-fight. He has a lot of avenues to success, and I love to see that in my picks. He's also a dangerous fighter if the fight continues to progress and it becomes even a little bit chaotic. He's able to really stay composed and continue to find openings, especially in those scrambles or when action gets a little bit messy. That kind of stuff gives him a unique edge. He could really capitalize on things like his opponent's fatigue or any mistakes that they make later in the fight. And sometimes he could even find that submission or striking opportunities when the pace is high and, a fighter's defenses are compromised. I like his mental edge as a fighter, his recent activity as well. I like his clinch and his ground control as well as a fighter. And those kind of factors, I think that, based on his current trajectory, his adaptability as a fighter, and his resilience, I would not be surprised, guys, if Moicano gets the decision victory. I don't see the finish necessarily, but I think there's more of a chance of Moicano getting that decision victory. For the next fight, we have a fight that I'm very, very excited for, guys. It's going to be Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. Now, for this fight, I am picking Brandon Royval, and I ended up giving him a 53% probability of victory. Prediction models, they give him a very slight edge. They give him 50.1% probability of victory. I bumped that up about 3% because I like what I see out of Royval, and I think it's ever so slightly, it's going to tip the favor into his side whenever it comes to picking this fight. Now, the statistical reason why I like Royval here is because he has a height advantage of 4 inches, he has a reach advantage of 3 inches, and he knows how to use his physical advantages very, very well. He also is very, very elusive. He absorbs 2.2 less strikes per minute. He has a 12% better takedown accuracy as well. When you take a look at his total record, 17 wins, 7 losses. Out of those 17 wins, 4 of them were KO/TKOs, 9 were submissions, and 4 were decision victories. All in all, he has a 77% finish rate. Very impressive. Out of his 7 losses, 1 was a KO/TKO, 1 was a submission, and the remaining 5 were decision losses. He does have 10 first-round finishes out of his 17 wins. That is pretty impressive. Most of the time, he is able to get it done within that very first round. Recently, he has won 4 of his last 5 fights, and he's currently on a 2-fight win streak. His most recent win was back in October of 2024. Most recent loss was back in December of 2023. Now, when you take a look at a guy like Royval, here's what I like about him. He has really good experience at the highest level. I mean, he's consistently faced and competed with the absolute top contenders in the flyweight division, including title fights and main event slots, you name it. He's gone the distance with champs, top-ranked guys, and he's really demonstrated good composure and adaptability under pressure that comes only from repeated exposure to really good competition, guys. And that kind of experience definitely gives him a mental edge against someone like Joshua Van, who's coming up. Now, he's also a dynamic fighter, and I love his unpredictability, or as a fighter. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you get what I'm saying, right? Royval, he's known for being creative. He has an aggressive style. He's constantly threatening opponents with submissions from any position. He's mixing in those unorthodox strikes. He's able to catch his opponents off guard. He has those spinning elbows, those chokes, sudden transitions, and that kind of stuff. It can definitely disrupt the rhythm, even of the most confident strikers you could think of. That unpredictability, that's key in a fighter, and I love seeing that in my picks, especially on that short notice. Now, I also like his submission threat, and he really does have that submission threat coming from anywhere. I mean, he is a BJJ black belt. He has a proven track record of finishing fights with submissions. He has those guillotines, arm bars, triangles, you name it. And all that means is that he can really capitalize on even the tiniest mistake that Joshua might make in this fight. And, his takedown defense, if you take a look at it, it's been kind of a weakness of his. Rewatch his fights and you'll be able to see what I'm saying. Now, Royval, on the other hand, he can turn scrambles into really dangerous submission opportunities very quickly. He's beautiful at doing that, and that is going to be a constant threat. He's a resilient fighter. I really like his fight IQ. That is a huge thing I want to underline. He's an opportunistic finisher. It's rare when I say that, but whenever it comes to those chaotic exchanges, both on the feet or even on the ground, he's really good at finding finishes, guys. He's able to capitalize on any kind of opening with chokes or sudden strikes. That's going to make him very dangerous, and I just don't think that Van has what it takes for me to feel confident in his game. Although it's close, I'm only giving him a 53% probability victory, but I really like what I see stylistically out of Royval, and I think he has what it takes to get it in his favor. I don't think we're going to see a finish, guys. Full disclosure, I'm going to take Brandon Royval via decision. That's my bottom line for this fight. This is going to be a good fight. For the next fight, we have our co-main event of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. We've made it to the co-main event. We have Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France. This is a banger of a co-main event, championship fight. Very excited for this fight. I did end up going with Alexandre Pantoja. I gave him a 68% probability victory. Let's talk about why. First thing I want to mention, prediction models agreed with me. They gave him a 64% probability victory. I bumped it up. I like what I see out of him. First, let's talk about the statistical reasons why I like Alexandre Pantoja. He has a height advantage of just an inch in this fight, but he has an 11% better striking accuracy while landing 2.13 more takedowns on average, and he has a 14% better takedown accuracy as well. Key stats that are in his favor. His total record is 29 impressive wins and only 5 losses. And even those losses, I mean, there were learning opportunities. Now, out of his 29 wins, 8 of those were KO/TKOs, 11 of those were submissions, and 10 were decision victories. All in all, that gives him a 66% finish rate, very well-rounded overall. I mean, he's really sprinkled it evenly. He has a lot of KO/TKOs, even more submissions, and then good decision victories as well, able to control a fight when he needs to. Out of his 5 losses, all 5 have been decision losses. He does have 10 first-round finishes out of his 29 wins, so about a third of the time, he is able to get it done within the very first round. Recently, he's been on an absolute tear, guys. He's won 5 of his last 5 fights. In fact, he's on a 7-fight win streak. Very impressive. His most recent win was back in December of 2024. Most recent loss was back in July of 2020. Let's talk about what the champ does very, very well, Pantoja. First thing that I have to mention is his grappling dominance. I mean, he's an elite grappler. He has great skills. He's able to control fights on the ground whenever he needs to. He has aggressive submission hunting skills. His back control, they're just constant threats. He forces opponents into very defensive positions, and he's just a world-class grappler, and I think he's able to utilize all of his skills to really dictate where a fight takes place and just control the chess pieces to his liking. And in contrast, you have a guy like Kai Kara-France who has more of a striking focused approach, very linear overall. Also, when it comes to Pantoja, his durability, man, it's really unmatched. He has a great chin, very resilient as a fighter, and he's able to really take some damage and just be fine. He eats those shots, man. And he's just a zombie in there sometimes. And so sometimes he even looks tired, guys, and he's not tired. That's the crazy thing about him. It kind of reminds me of Drake's Duplessis, man. I mean, the guy will look tired, but he's actually not tired. In fact, he's just getting started. It's very interesting to see that kind of body language. If you rewatch his fights, you'll see exactly what I mean. He is one of those fighters that has relentless, crazy, constant forward movement. He suffocates his opponents with his volume and his pace very, very intelligently. It's not by coincidence, guys. That kind of pressure, it prevents strikers, specifically like Kai Kara-France. Please keep in mind what I'm saying here. It prevents fighters and strikers like Kai Kara-France from establishing their rhythm. He also has championship level experience. I mean, he's defended his title 3 times already, although one of them, it's what it is. It was a debut, whatever. But he really understands championship fight dynamics, guys. At least better than Kai Kara-France here. His coach, American Top Team, really good coaches. They have definitely helped him refine his fight IQ, and he's even admitted himself that that's had a very good impact. So I like his training. I like his background overall. He's a very versatile fighter. He's comfortable whenever it comes to striking exchanges and even grappling exchanges. He does very well. I mean, great grappling, proven durability as a fighter, championship level adaptability. He's truly a stylistic puzzle, and I don't think that Kai Kara-France has it within him to solve this kind of a puzzle. I like Pantoja in this fight a lot, guys. I don't think he's going to get the finish, but I definitely see Pantoja getting the decision victory. I feel pretty good about that. That's my bottom line for this fight. For the next fight, we have our main event, guys, and this one does hurt to predict a little bit, but you know what I do. In this channel, I put the emotions aside. I don't have any bias. I stick to logic. I stick to analysis, the statistical stuff, non-statistical stuff, qualitative, quantitative, and for those reasons, I'm going to be putting any kind of emotions or bias aside. You know, full disclosure, it would be pretty darn cool to see Charles Oliveira come out with the championship here and, you know, just overcome all of the odds as an underdog. But for all intents and purposes here, for Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, the main event of UFC 317 International Fight Week, I am going for Ilia Topuria here, guys. Although I will say I had to normalize the reading a lot. I think he is way too expensive. I think the odds makers are completely forgetting about Charles' skill set and completely writing him out. I normalized it heavily. I ended up giving Topuria a 65% modest probability of victory here. Now the prediction models, they gave him even lower, so that's what's interesting. They gave him a 58% probability of victory. So although I am picking Ilia Topuria here, this really highlights Charles Oliveira's skill sets a little bit more. But first, let me tell you statistically why I like Topuria in this fight. He is 7 years younger. He's pretty much entering his prime. He's absolutely killing it right now, guys. He's dropping legends. And so he's landing 1.3 more strikes per minute compared to Oliveira. He also has a 15% better striking defense, a 21% higher takedown accuracy, and a 36% better takedown defense as well. Now, Topuria, his total record is 16 wins and 0 losses. That 0 is pretty scary because it's just waiting. You know, people, their mouths are watering to see that 0 drop. Out of his 16 wins, 6 of his victories have been via KO/TKO, 8 have been via submission, and 2 have been via decision, which all in all gives him an 88% finish rate. Very, very impressive stuff from Topuria. I will say he's been on an absolute tear, and I do respect what he's been able to achieve so far. He has 9 first-round finishes. Recently, of course, 16-fight win streak, absolute insanity. 9 first-round finishes out of his 16 victories. Most of the time, a little bit more than half, he's able to get it done within the very first round, but he's also hunting for it later on as well, as we've seen in his previous fights. Now, his most recent win was back in October of 2024. That was a great fight. Let's talk about the great things that Topuria does that really sets him apart compared to Oliveira in this fight. Now, the first thing would be his confidence and his mental edge in general. I mean, he is like, you know, oozing with confidence, guys. He's consistently asserting that, you know, he is superior in any area of a fight, whether it's striking, grappling, wrestling. He really believes it, and he really perfects his craft. He really trains it. He thinks that Oliveira has never really faced an opponent with his kind of skill. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I'm just saying that Topuria is very confident in who he is and his skills, and I think that sometimes that confidence can go a very long way. We saw boxers like Muhammad Ali go very far with their confidence and their training, and that kind of confidence does bleed into your training as well, and vice versa. Your training definitely bleeds into your confidence because you know what you're capable of, you know what you've done, and it just continues to snowball very, very much. Let's continue. When it comes to technical striking and power, Topuria definitely has the advantage here. I mean, he's recognized for his crazy good boxing skills, especially in short range exchanges. You know, he is a little bit stout and, you know, but he is really good in those short range exchanges. Now, keep in mind, Oliveira actually has a longer reach than Topuria, so Topuria's going to have to get inside, but that's exactly where Topuria really excels. I mean, his technique, it's very precise. His footwork and his placement of his feet and his body mechanics, they all work very, very well to maximize his punching power. He knows how to throw a solid punch. If you slow it down, it's very beautiful stuff. I mean, he believes in his power, and I do think it is on another level compared to Oliveira, or something that Oliveira has faced. And if he does land a clean shot, I don't know, guys, it might be really tough for Oliveira, you know, to at least recover from that and just be 100% again. It's going to be tough. You want to be very careful of those explosive shots. And that's, you know, what I want to talk about next, his explosiveness and his fight IQ in general. Topuria is known for finding those openings and his ability to really explode with those powerful strikes and capitalize on even the tiniest mistakes that an opponent can make. His timing and his fight IQ, they definitely allow him to adjust very quickly and take advantage of aggressive forward moving opponents like Oliveira. Oliveira likes to kind of do that, And that is like a fly going into a spider's trap. Very dangerous for Oliveira, and exactly what Topuria wants to see. He anticipates that Oliveira is going to look for those takedowns early on, guys, but he's confident in his ability to keep the fight standing and finish it quickly. I think if Oliveira gets the fight to the mat, that's where things might start shifting, but people oftentimes forget Topuria does have 8 submissions, so it's not like he's just a striker. People try to compare him to McGregor or whoever. This guy's not just a striker, guys. Not that I'm saying McGregor's just a striker. Even McGregor has a few submissions and stuff like that, but Topuria, he's well-versed. He's well-rounded. He's an adaptable fighter. He's a versatile as well. He's fought against very elite opponents, guys that you wouldn't expect to, have lost. Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, you name it. I mean, he's comfortable in any kind of range. He can switch between striking and grappling very easily. He's undefeated. He's shown he can even make the best fighters play his game rather than the other way around. And fighters that really impose their game plan, they tend to be the most dangerous because they have control. That's what they do very well. So I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Honestly, with Topuria's confidence, his technical striking, his explosiveness, his adaptability, his psychological pressure, all of those being very key qualitative factors that's the stuff that I think is going to give Topuria the decision here. I do not think that Oliveira is going to do as bad as odds makers and some analysts are saying. In fact, keep in mind, just to speak a little bit to Oliveira and why I had to normalize the reading on Ilia Topuria, Oliveira, his submission skills and his grappling depth, he's one of the most decorated submission artists in UFC history. In fact, he holds the record for most submission victories within the organization. His BJJ is very elite. He's able to finish fights in different positions and techniques, and including some of those weird ones like that calf slicer that we saw before too. He's comfortable on top and off his back. He's very dangerous in almost any kind of grappling scenario. He does have experience and he does have his own championship pedigree. Keep that in mind, guys. He has faced really good fighters. He's learned from his losses. He is a really good fighter. He's versatile himself, very well-rounded. There is a size and physicality advantage on Charles Oliveira's side as well. He's confident in his own way, and he does have a killer instinct of his own. So I'm not one of those bandwagoners who is just going all in on Ilia Topuria. I definitely had to normalize the reading here. I think 65% is pretty logical. And so all in all, because of all the advantages that I see in Ilia Topuria, I actually do think he's going to get that KO/TKO. I know it's heartbreaking for some of y'all to hear, but that's what I think is going to happen in this fight. I do expect him to catch Oliveira making a mistake and really just, flexing his boxing skills and his power punches, catching Oliveira, and then just going absolute crazy. And he's also very motivated to do this. That championship is on the line. Topuria is a very hungry fighter, so give me Ilia Topuria via KO/TKO. I think there's a 65% probability of him winning, and I think there's a good chance if he wins that he gets it done via KO/TKO, and that is the bottom line. Thank you guys so much. Very excited for UFC 317. Hope you guys have a great week and a great weekend, and you guys enjoy the event. I will do a betting video in a couple days. I think I'll release it on Thursday, and so we will take a look at a lot of value for the card. Stick around. If you're new, please like and subscribe, and if you're returning, thank you once again for all of your support. And with that being said, that wraps up this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and being so supportive as always. And if you get a chance, take a look at that data that's available on the Patreon. I do have a free preview up there, so go ahead and explore and see how that analysis can help you with your picks and your predictions a whole week before the fight happens. On the Patreon, there are prediction models, weighted averages, final predictions and picks. There's prop bets that are logically, statistically, and stylistically going to happen. There's the best favorites on the card, the best underdogs if you're looking for good value, willing to roll the dice a little bit. There's even a deeper dive into each fighter's record. That's a whole analysis. And you also get a performance analysis by each fighter's individual fight throughout their UFC career. And what that's going to help you do is see if fighters are improving throughout their career, and then who they did really good against and who they didn't do good against, so you can kind of pick off strengths and weaknesses based on individual performance and throughout a career. And it also just gives this factor of time into data in our analysis. So anyways, you can compare those performances to upcoming fighters and similar fighters that they're going to go up against. There's all sorts of stuff you can do with the analysis. Please check it out. Thank you guys again for everything, and I'll definitely see you in the next one.